Hello and welcome to day 13 of the 90-day YouTube challenge. But this one I'll make a bit of an intuitive chat. I'm basically in the same spot that I was last time when I talked about the meaning of life, as one does. So I'm Dion from Eflowtion. I currently have a fly that wants to land on my nose and everywhere else. The fact of being in nature. Now, there was a Soma breath instructor that's taking part in the 90-day challenge. His name's Dustin, by the way. I will name him. I shall unveil his identity. And he mentioned the word discombobulate. Discombobulate? I think that's how you say it. Discombobulate, which is a fun word to say. I do enjoy saying it. But discombobulate is actually quite a good word. I do like the word because it kind of implies a mixing up, a shaking up of things. Like everything is in a disarray. Senses gone. Everything is in a whirlwind, at least until things settle. And for this intuitive chat, I attempt to discombobulate your brain in a very nice way. So, I was thinking, and it's a thought I've had every time I've come to this forest, as my brain tends to do, and I was like looking up at the branches and all the wiggly branches and how it all just shapes around, and it all almost overlaps in a way, like it's like this big sort of wiggly network of branches. And then you've got the trunk, for example, like you've got a trunk of a tree that really is the connecting point between the big wiggly bits that we can see and the big wiggly bits underground that we can't see, the root system. It's like big wiggly up there, and basically what's up there is below. What is above is below. But yeah, like the branches above are a good representation of the root system below. Whenever you've seen a tree fallen over sort of thing, you'll see the big wiggly roots. So really it's like you've got a big wiggly bit up there, a stem, a connecting point, and then a big wiggly bit underneath the ground. So the trunk of the tree is just sort of like that middle point, really. It's the go-between things. It's like a bridge almost of below and above. And like when you consider what's below with the the mycelium, the fungus network, the mushroom network, which has a great deal of intelligence to it. The root system, it can feed intelligence to the root systems of trees. The trees themselves can identify who's parent trees, who's child trees. This is all science. I'm not just making up stuff. It actually is all connected, and same with the root. Basically, the root system that's above the branches is converting, oxygen into CO2, and that's with the what's that term? It's gone from my brain. But that process where it turns, I'll let the old brain meal on that for a bit. The process where it turns the oxygen into carbon. And it feeds off the sun, sort of thing. And when you think about a tree being a big sort of like energy source where it's collecting carbon, it's collecting sun, feeding it into the root system, water, all these sorts of things, it's kind of like this big energy network. And when you consider like how our brains look, with the neurons, with all these different wiggly branches all connected sort of thing, we actually have almost like walking through a forest is walking through a big brain. It's a big neural brain. It's got all the wiggly neurons at the top and all the wiggly neurons at the bottom, all with this intelligence that we discover as we go in science to be quite intelligent. It's not just this dead forest that is around me. It's quite an alive forest. And you could say in a way that if we're cutting down massive forests and all that, it's kind of like committing a form of brain damage in a way. It's like committing a form of destruction to this a habitat that has quite a sense of intelligence to it and mirrors a lot of our own brain in at least in a visual sense, and there is a lot of activity going on. So we're going to discombobulate. I'll get the word eventually. Photosynthesis, there we go, it came to me eventually. But we're similar to the meaning of life talk that I gave, is that, sorry, two butterflies down there. Enjoying the talk. But similar to the meaning of life is everything that I've talked about, how do I know it? And when you look at science, its Latin root, it basically means knowledge, meaning, experience. If you do a search on it, like the Latin root of the words science, it basically becomes the word knowledge. And everything that I've talked about has been scientifically discovered. So when you look at the word scientifically discovered, it really just means knowledge that has new knowledge that is now being understood. But how do we actually understand anything? Okay, so this is where it begins. We've understood, well, we presume to understand through seeking of knowledge, through seeking of discovery, how all these things work. Now, a lot of knowledge has changed over the years of how we view the world, how we understand the world, how we understand ourselves and in relation to the world. As I said, the fact that I know a tree to be a tree is because I learnt it to be a tree. It may not be a tree, it's just how I've come to gain that knowledge, that experience of it being a tree. But it's only through upbringing that I've understood it to be a tree, or this to be a forest. It's my relation to the forest. But how does a tree know it's a tree? And why did it choose to be a tree? Well, you might say, well, it's just because it came from a seed that was from a former tree, and then that tree came from another seed, and it's kind of like the chicken and the egg story, goes back and back and back. But how did the actual seed become to be a tree in the first place? Why did it choose a tree? Why did it not choose to be a bush? Well, you're thinking, oh, you're saying that it's got choice in what it can do. It's like I could have chosen to be a park bench, for example. I didn't have to be a human. But when you look at what the components of a tree is, what a seed is a whole bunch of elements. It's a whole bunch of minerals that actually make a tree. When you look at, say, with when it comes to human, male and female with the sperm is actually just a whole bunch of minerals that create life. Where do all these minerals come from? Okay, so it's kind of like where everything forms of itself. Everything gathers together. Let's go back to the beginning of the universe. So when the beginning of the universe started to happen, it was all these different elements. It was all these different minerals, gases, all these different energy forms that slowly started to form together. It started to come together, form together, come into shape, sort of thing. Like with forming of planets, it starts off with like meteorites, and then slowly the gravity, as it goes around the sun, forms it into a planet. And it's kind of like that with a mineral. Everything that, say when you die, those minerals, or anything dies, those minerals go back into the earth. Now, they don't just stay there dormant, they get integrated into the earth, and then the process starts again. It's kind of like this recycling process of the planet, of the universe. Everything that gets destroyed doesn't go into complete zeroness, because even zeroness has a value of something being zero, but it actually forms that all those destructive particles will eventually form into something else, be it a tree, be it a person, be it something else. So there's actually quite a lottery to actually becoming a human. When you think about how everything comes into play for you to be a human, all these different elements. So how does a tree know to be a tree? Is it comes out of itself to be a tree. It could have quite easily been a bush. Now, my knowing of the tree is completely different to my understanding of the tree. So I could very scientifically dissect a tree. I could pull it all apart, to look at it on a very atomized level, and classify everything in that tree and give it a name, a scientific name, a Latin root of a name. But all I've really done is dissect it into a lot of bits to gain a knowledge of something that I claim to understand. Now, back to scientific discovery and science being knowledge. If we're still discovering things, our understanding of things, then it means that even things that we did know, that we have new theories, new explanations of things, hasn't actually come to a full understanding of anything. And will we ever understand anything? Because some things are just beyond us. Some things require our relation of knowledge that we already have to actually understand the universe, so it becomes a trap. So everything that you've experienced, everything that you've done, like I said, one of the 90-day ones is how you know a chocolate ice cream to be good is you've had past experiences of chocolate ice cream to be good. It's stored away in the subconscious. So everything that we've learnt, everything that we've understood, well, presumed to understand, is in relation to our so-called knowledge at this point. But really, when you break it down, again, if we look at it from another level, is that knowledge, even the fact of words, the fact of how does tree get to be formed as a word to actually understand it, is only in relation to us, our words, our understanding, our meaning. And with knowledge, if I try to express myself through words, if I try to express how hot it is today, I could say it's quite humid, like it's kind of a sticky heat and all that, which is just words. It doesn't actually describe the experience, how it is to be in there. And if science also covers the experience, then we need to know how the actual experience feels to us. Take intuition, for example. I am actually quite intuitive, but the only way I can actually form an intuitive thought is by my input of the world, my sensory input of the world. I can't just make up things and just say this is the way it is when I have actually no relation to how that actually got to be. I understand the world through, I'm able to create a framework on my sensory input of the world, my experiences of the world, which then is able to form an intuitive thought. Now, with understanding, will we ever actually understand anything? If I'm quiet for a moment, we might hear the wind. How do I know the wind's there? I can't see the wind. I can't taste the wind. If I'm tasting the wind, then there's something on the wind for taste. It's because it's brushing against my skin, it's brushing against my eardrums, so that I'm aware that there's wind. But how do I get this awareness? And how do I interpret that as wind? And when we look at ourselves, the formation of ourselves, how we get to be, is of the wind, is of the earth, is of the universe. We're the same atoms. Similar to the forest, our brain may resemble the same structure as the forest, of all the wiggly branches. So, in a sense, what ground we stand on to know what is right or wrong, correct knowledge, correct fact theory, is really a shifting ground that is beneath us. We never truly understand, because to understand, we have to relate it back to the knowledge we already have. And sometimes to form a new understanding, we have to empty the cup of our old understanding. It's hard to cram into ways of thinking to belief systems. For example, I could say that that swimming in water doesn't make you wet. And then science came along and said, yes, it does make you wet. And do I go, well, it doesn't make me wet, but it does make me wet. It sounds like nonsense, doesn't it? So shifting the knowledge away from what we did know to what we do know now. And what we know now is also going to shift again. So it's never clinging too tightly to what is right or wrong. How do we know what is right or wrong? It comes back to, how do I feel about things? How does that resonate to me? If something doesn't feel right, if something feels against a system of myself, like not a system as in like a society system, a body system, then it doesn't create harmony in my body. And back to energy, back to the forest, everything is energy. And energy on a physics level is a frequency. So if something feels completely out of character or out of the depth of how I feel towards things, it actually means that it may result in a wrong answer. Or you could use a lot of knowledge to form a right or wrong in things. But once again, the knowledge is also situational to where you are on the world. My sense of right or wrong in Australia might be completely right or wrong, completely different or switched around to somewhere else in the world. My beliefs might be completely different to someone else on the other side of the planet, based on their upbringing, based on their knowledge, based on their experiences, based on their religions. So what is actually right or wrong? It comes down to the person, the frequency, the feeling of something. And I could very much dominate over you and say, well, my way is better than your way. But how do I know my way is better than your way? Maybe your way doesn't align with my way. So it's better for you to align with my frequency. Does that make that right or wrong? In some cases, yes. In some cases, completely no. Because you know, with your knowledge, with your experience, might be a lot smarter than me with my knowledge or experience, or just more experienced. So I guess the point of this intuitive chat is to say everything around us, no matter how smart we get, how determined, how much control we exhibit on what we know of things, we'll never truly understand. Because to understand, if we look at the word under and standing, what is beneath us is always changing. So it's hard to stand on something that we fully don't understand. It's under shifting. But how do we actually make sense of all of this? It's like, yeah, it's all good to like theorize and like muck things up and discombobulate things. I get the word somewhere. The actual word is discombobulating me. But to actually know something, we need to define things. We need to know that is a tree. That is a tree, okay? Understand that? Everyone know, everyone agree, everyone understand that is a tree. Okay, we've got a sense of understanding. Or do we just have an agreed sense of knowledge? The fact that you can understand, or at least try to understand, a lot of what I'm saying is that you've had learning in English. That the English language is just a whole bunch of arranged noises, really, when you think about it, that we've come to attune to understand what I'm saying. There's no difference between what I'm saying here and blah, blah, blah. It's just, but we also know that blah, blah, blah means nonsense. So blah, blah, blah actually has a meaning behind it, the meaning of nonsense. So if we all are in agreement that this is a forest, that this is trees, that the ground I'm standing on is dirt, then we have an agreed sense of knowledge. At least in this part of the world. And at least as it stands now, as the understanding now happens. So shaking things up, looking at things from different points of view, looking at things from different angles, considering things from different angles, actually leads to discovery, leads to new knowledge, leads to new things. But it does actually require sometimes letting go of what we did know. But what we did know doesn't say that it is of no value. Because once again, something of no value has the value of being of no value. And it's kind of like the stepping block, or the step to get higher on to something, if you want to use a level sense. It's that thing that gets you, like with crawling, you need to learn to crawl to be able to walk. You need to be able to walk to be able to run. You need to be able to run to really jump high, and so on and so forth. So the lesson of crawling is actually understanding. It's actually the beginning, rather, of a new knowledge of how to move through the world. But it does require, at some stage, letting go of crawling. So, looking at things from different points of view allows new knowledge to actually arise, allows new information that may be uncomfortable, because anything that new is scary. And if what we've clung to for so long may be proven wrong by its own form of scientific discovery, then do you cling to something that is a dead weight, or do you move on so you can actually walk and run? So yeah, at least something to shake the brain up with and look at things from different points of view. And one last thing is, when I was walking here, I saw a lizard on a set of steps. I was going up a hill, there was a set of steps, and I moved to the side of the step to walk past because I didn't want to step on it, and I gave it enough clearance because it was like kind of looking at me a little bit like, well, what's this thing coming towards me? And then I continued on, and as my brain tends to go, it's like it was thinking, well, I wonder if a lizard has ever seen a human before. And you might think, well, all lizards know what a human is. Where does one gather such importance? Because we know what a lizard is. A lizard itself could go through this entire forest for its entire life, not needing to know, not ever discovering what a human is. But when it does come across a human, it's like, what the hell is this thing? It's like when I went scuba diving once. Why not scuba diving, snorkeling? And they were saying that a fish, and they are very curious, will look at you like an alien that's entered into their world. These fish will come up to you and like look at you on the side sort of thing, and like think, what the hell is this wiggly thing that's in this environment of my world? Because not everything centers around humans. And what the lizard understands of the world may be far beyond my understanding of the world. It's just yet to be discovered. And its senses of the world, how it takes in information, is a lot different to mine. Same with a bird, it can see different colours than a human can. So it might be interpreting the world a lot different. We only interpret it through the filter that we see the world through. It's a reflection of us. And if we're committing brain damage, is that a good reflection? So I'm Dion from Eflowtion, EFT practitioner and sonograph instructor. And thank you for watching this intuitive EFT intuitive chat at least. Bye for now.